Hey there. So, before I start the chapter, I just want to quickly apologize for missing the last 2 days. I was at a concert and cheering for a race, so my voice was actually gone. And I did not want to try to read when I could barely hear what I was trying to say. So, I am back now, and I do apologize for my voice still being pretty rough, but I will try to get through this chapter. Chapter 4. Chapter Summary. Trigger warning, panic attack. This starts off soft and fluffy and then gets less so. But it's gonna be okay. Well, as okay as James and Regulus can be. He's not sure how it starts exactly. It's an accident, he's almost certain. A coincidence. That he finds himself heading up to the astronomy tower almost every night after his friends have gone to sleep. Another coincidence, that Regulus is always there. It's strange how quickly he starts to know Regulus. The different ways he smiles without using his mouth, or how he tugs at his fingers when he gets nervous. James doesn't know what it means that he notices these things. He doesn't try to figure it out. Maybe he doesn't want to. You're telling me you've been at this school for 4 years. James is lying on his back, arms thrown behind his head, and you've never stepped foot in the Forbidden Forest. Excuse me for taking the forbidden part of the name seriously, Regulus says, sitting with one knee pulled up, chin resting on top. James snorts. Right little rule follower, aren't you? I just happen to be in possession of something called common sense. You might want to try it. Pfft, James says dismissively. Sounds dead boring. Yes, well, you would think so. James pushes himself up onto his elbows so he can look at Regulus properly. He seems different like this, coat up, shirt untucked. Soft. James's brain supplies. He looks soft. I'll take you, he says finally. Regulus arches his brow. You'll take me where? The forest, obviously. Regulus makes a disapproving noise. I'm not going in there. Aw, come on. James knocks his foot against Regulus's. You'll love it, I promise. Somehow, I doubt that. Listen, if you're scared, I'm not scared. Regulus interrupts sharply, and James does his best not to laugh. I'm not scared, he repeats. I'm smart. There's a difference. If you say so. James knocks his foot again, this time sitting there, pressed against Regulus's ankle. But my point was that if you did happen to be scared, James holds up a hand the minute he sees Regulus open his mouth, which you aren't, obviously, but if you were, you should know that you'd have a distinct advantage going in there with me. Regulus snorts. And why's that? Because, James grins, Gryffindors are contractually obliged to sacrifice themselves, so you'll have a decent head start, well, whatever terrible monster we run into feasts on my flesh. There's a beat of silence before Regulus drops his face into his knees, shoulders shaking with laughter. Making Regulus laugh is new. Good new. Really good new. It feels like scoring a goal in a Quidditch match. Like scoring the winning goal. I can't believe you stole a snitch, Regulus says, batting the ball in question away from his face. James smiles, catching it easily in his hand as it starts zooming over the edge of the tower. Really? You can't believe it? Regulus rolls his eyes, but James can tell he's trying not to smile. Besides, he goes on, feeling smug, I'm not stealing, just borrowing. Of course you are. James tosses the snitch up and down a few times before he noticed Regulus watching him, the younger boy quickly turning back to his telescope. The Catapults are your favorite Quidditch team? Regulus repeats in shock. They're sitting on the ground, leaning against the castle, James's most recent haul from the Honeydukes piled up between them. I don't know why you're so surprised, James says, biting off the end of his jelly wand. The Catapults, is all Regulus has to say in return. James rolls his eyes. They're badass. I mean, the award for riskiest play is named after one of their players. Doesn't get much cooler than that. Because he was eaten by a chimera, Regulus says flatly, not because he did anything particularly impressive on the pitch. Correction. James waves around his half-eaten gummy to emphasize his point. He was eaten by a chimera, and he was impressive on the pitch. Can't ask for a better legacy than that. Regulus stares blankly at him. I can't tell if you're joking right now, or if you're genuinely this ridiculous. James grins. Part of my charm, that. He's trying to collect them all? Regulus asks incredulously, passing his chocolate frog card to James. Yeah. That's absurd. James laughs. Yep. He slips the card into the pocket of his hoodie. But you gotta respect his commitment. Regulus arches his brow in a manner that suggests he does not think you actually do have to respect it, but he doesn't say anything. Instead, he turns his head and stares out over the grounds, closing his eyes for a moment and breathing in. Bad day? James asks eventually when the silence drags on too long. Regulus sighs. Maybe. I don't know. James watches him, waiting for him to keep going. He learned in these moments that Regulus needs to feel like he's in control. I got a letter from home. James feels himself stiffen. They don't talk about his family. James isn't sure that he wants to, that he can. My dad. His voice is clipped, words barely making it out. He struggles to keep going. He's sick. What? Regulus leans back against the pillar behind him, head tilted up towards the sky. I thought Sirius might have told you. He lets it hang there between them while James tries to collect himself. No? He can hear the hurt in his voice, and he hates it. No, he didn't say. Has your dad been sick for a while? Regulus nods, not dropping his eyes from the sky. And the healers can't do anything? A dry laugh. James is learning to hate those. They're nothing like his real laugh, which is full and strong. No, blood curse or something. Hereditary. Purebloods, you know? All that inbreeding. James does know. He has a vague memory of his mum telling him about an aunt who died from something similar. Does that mean... A sentence he can't bring himself to finish. Finally, Regulus's eyes come back to him. That Sirius has it? He shrugs. We don't know. Won't. Not until it happens. James feels a little lightheaded for a moment, fingers digging into the stone building underneath him. The pain helps. It keeps him grounded. We figured out how to turn ourselves into animagi for Remus, he thinks to himself, trying to get his stomach muscles to unclench. We'll figure this one out too if we have to. It takes a moment before he realizes that Regulus is watching him, a curious expression on his face. You really care about him, don't you? Yes, James answers without question, and then, not just him, though. Regulus's expression flickers and then quickly goes out. He looks down at his lap, picking some lint off his pants in a poor attempt to appear indifferent. Anyway, he presses on, voice carefully held, guarded. It's hard, hearing from him, when I can't do anything to help. James isn't sure what to say. He realizes, suddenly, that he doesn't know much about Mr. Black. Most of Sirius's stories center around Walburga, her rules and her bigotry and her sharp magic that liked to slice into him any chance it got, sometimes lashing out unconsciously, his mother's anger bleeding out of her and leaving him broken. If Sirius spoke of his father, it was a shadowy figure in the background, who said and did nothing. He works at the ministry, right? James says finally, pulling out one of the pieces of information he thinks he can remember. He did, but he's gotten worse recently. He can't really use his magic anymore. Too bad, he used to be brilliant. James recognizes that tone, knows that that's how he sounds when he talks about his own dad. He tries not to feel angry at Regulus. Really, he does. But he can't get the images of Sirius alone on his doorstep out of his head, or showing up at Hogwarts Express every year, held together by tape and glue. They're nice to you? James finds himself asking. Regulus doesn't seem surprised by the question. I love them. James bites back the automatic response of how or why. Because he knows they won't get him anywhere. Knows they'll just shut Regulus down. That's not the same thing, he says finally. Regulus smiles dryly. No, he concedes. But it's the thing that matters. James has started sleeping better, which is ridiculous considering how much less time he's spending in bed, but it helps for some reason, talking to Regulus. There's something steadying about the other boy. Now, when he closes his eyes, the darkness is full of stars. Oi, you lot! Hurry up, we're going to be late! James is walking backwards down the hill towards the pitch, desperately trying to corral the majority of the fifth-year Gryffindors. Mary and Sirius are messing about in some strange mating ritual that's halfway between wrestling and dancing, and not moving them any closer to the Quidditch pitch. Marlene and Dorcas are making bets on the match with a group of Hufflepuffs, and Peter is having an adamant argument with Gifford Abbott about whose chocolate is better, Honeydukes or Cadbury, which, for some reason, has affected their ability to walk at a reasonable pace. James sighs, running a hand over his face before looking at the lone figure beside him. You're my favorite, Moony. Have I ever told you that? Remus snorts, watching the chaos unfolding behind them with mild amusement. Uh-huh. Wait, James eyes the bag hanging off of Remus's shoulder. Did you bring textbooks with you? Remus clutches at the bag like he's worried James is about to rip it away from him, sending his friend a sheepish look. Might have, yeah? James throws his hands up over his head. Forget it, I take it back. I hate all of you equally. Oh, please, comes Sirius's voice as he starts making his way towards them, Mary now on his back. You love us. I'd love you more if you could get your asses moving, James says as they start walking again, throngs of other students in yellow and green moving with them. Sirius rolls his eyes. I don't know why you're so interested in this game. We all know Hufflepuff's got it in the bag. Is that a bet I hear, Black? Marlene calls from behind him. Sirius laughs. Not a chance, McKinnon. I've learned my lesson. You cleaned me out last time. Hufflepuff does not have it in the bag, James says resolutely. Do you want it? No, Marlene. James cuts her off. He thinks he can hear her mumble cowards, but he can't be sure. Wow, I never would have expected the Marauders to be so cautious with their money, Mary says, dropping her face down and planting a kiss on Sirius's cheek. James shoots a quick glance at Mooney, but he's staring straight ahead, hands wrapped tightly around the strap of his bag. They haven't talked about, well, anything since the library. James has gotten the distinct impression that Remus has been going out of his way to avoid being alone with him, which he personally thinks is a bit dramatic. If Remus doesn't want to talk about it, that's fine with James, but that doesn't mean he's going to let his friends suffer. Oi, you two, let's keep it decent, yeah? There are children present. And by children you mean yourself? Mary asks, eyebrow raised. Mary, don't be ridiculous. James holds a hand to his chest, deeply offended. I meant Peter. She laughs, sliding off of Sirius's back. I heard that, Peter calls. Inside voice, sweetie, James shouts over his shoulder, causing general laughter to bubble up from the surrounding group. We are literally outside. Don't make me get your father, young man. Mary raises her brow as Peter mumbles a myriad of curses behind him. You're not the father? Pfft, James says. Obviously not. Sirius is the father, clearly. Never gives you his approval, emotionally distant, can't be relied on. Twat, Sirius laughs, punching him in the arm before turning to Mary. He's right, though. I am clearly the father. Remus makes an exasperated noise. The amount of bollocks you two talk is truly astounding. James grins, opening his mouth to speak before Mary beats him to it. I'd have thought Remus would be the mother. Remus groans. Please don't encourage them. They're insufferable enough as it is. See, she says, gesturing to an unimpressed blonde. Both James and Sirius look back at her unconvinced. What exactly about a dry, acerbic wit screams mother to you? Sirius asks. Yeah, Mooney's really more of an angsty teenager, James agrees. For Christ's sake, Remus mutters beside him, prompting James to swing his arm around his friend, pulling him into a hug. But we love him anyways. Our little moody Mooney, Sirius uses a baby voice that has James cackling. Remus eventually manages to shove James off, attempting to glare, though his eyes are a bit too bright to make it believable. The truth is, Remus can take a joke better than most people. All right, Mary says finally, squinting at Remus like he's a painting she's trying to work out. I guess I can see your point. Trust me, Sirius pulls Mary in and kisses the top of her head. We thought about this. James doesn't miss the way Remus looks away. The crowd gets thicker as they enter the stadium, the noise suddenly so big you can feel it in your chest. A group of Hufflepuffs in the middle of the stands have started to chant. Hufflepuffs are just and loyal, unafraid of any toil, but don't cross yellow and black, we will always get you back. Which quickly devolves into a simpler refrain of yellow and black on the attack, yellow and black on the attack. James smiles. He loves this. He thought his heart was going to explode the first time he stepped onto the Hogwarts Quidditch pitch. The Potters have a sprawling backyard and some play hoops set up, but it's nothing like this. He never gets less excited no matter how many games he watches. Already he can feel his skin buzzing with anticipation. The group of them push their way through the throngs of other students, looking for a group of seats together, which wouldn't have been a problem, James thinks bitterly, if his friends could walk in a straight bloody line. In the end, Peter and Abbott find seats together so they can continue the great chocolate debate of 75, and Dorcas and Marlene break off to sit with Lily and Alice. James very determinedly does not look at Evans. These seats aren't bad, Sirius says, as they finally settle, far closer to the ground than James would like. He only grumbles in response. Oh, don't sulk. I mean, he's not wrong. Mary leans over the railing, peering at the grass below. These seats are rubbish. Thank you, MacDonald. James says, feeling deeply validated. Remus is the only one sitting, textbook already open on his lap. It physically pains James to see it. I'm gonna wear you down one of these days, you know? He says, nudging at him playfully. Remus smiles without looking up. Sure you will, James. James snorts, turning back to the pitch. It's late afternoon, slightly overcast in a way the weather always seems to be in fall. Somehow, it makes all the colors more saturated, the greens and yellows. James starts drumming his fingers against the railing, bouncing on the balls of his feet, impatient for the game to start. I'm telling you, Sirius says, leaning in next to him, Hufflepuff has this one in the bag. Morrow is the best seeker at this school. Better not let Marlene hear you say that, Mary says in a sing-song voice. It's not all about the snitch, James argues, because it isn't. Everyone always thinks about that 150 points. But Quidditch is so much more than that. The best teams have deep talent. All the positions, all of the moving parts, they matter. He wishes more people understood that, which is what he should say. What he normally would say. And then Sirius would roll his eyes and tease him about being a dork, and they would all move on. Unfortunately, for reasons James can't comprehend, what comes out of his mouth is, besides, you're underestimating Regulus. He feels, more than sees, Sirius stiffen, that comment even catching Remus's attention, causing him to look up from his reading. Am I? There's something far too careful about Sirius's voice, too controlled. James grimaces. Fuck. Sorry, mate, I didn't think, just Quidditch brain, you know, I wasn't. But Sirius cuts him off with a wave of his hand. It's fine, you're right, he's not bad, Reg. but there's an edge of bitterness to his tone that doesn't feel right. Helps that he has the newest brew model as well. Hard for Morrow to compete with that on his 3-year-old clean sweep. James has to bite down on his tongue to keep from telling Sirius that he doesn't think that that's, strictly speaking, entirely fair. Even if part of him knows that Sirius has a point, yeah, is all he ends up saying. James feels himself let out a sigh of relief when Madame Hooch steps onto the pitch, distracting them from the newly uncomfortable silence that settled around them. The announcer calls out a few names of the Hufflepuff players as they file out, waving to the crowd and inspiring a new round of yellow and black on the attack. James isn't really thinking about how watching Regulus play might be different now that he knows him. Their conversations in the astronomy tower are so disconnected from everything else that James hasn't really tried to make sense of them, to make them fit. Sure, he sees Regulus every once in a while in the Great Hall or the corridors between classes, but they're only glimpses. Nothing has changed, really. So he isn't expecting to feel anything when Regulus walks out onto the pitch in his tight white Quidditch pants and green kit. Isn't expecting his stomach to drop into the soles of his shoes, beating at about a mile a minute, an exhale shooting out of him like he'd just been punched in the gut. Sirius sends him a questioning look. James doesn't know what's happening. Doesn't know what the hell this feeling is. Nerves? Is he nervous? Nervous that Sirius might notice? Might figure it out? Might be mad? Well, okay, the last one isn't a might. He knows that Sirius will be mad. He keeps meaning to tell him. He's been meaning to tell him since the first time with Snape. He doesn't know why he hasn't. Mostly, he imagines, it's because he doesn't know what to say. But Regulus is mounting his broom and James's heart is giving another lurch. You all right there? Sirius asks. Yep. James' voice is clipped, hands gripping the railing so tightly his knuckles have gone white. You look like you're going to be sick. Sirius sounds genuinely concerned. James is too, if he's being honest. Maybe it's something he ate? Maybe he's sick? Well, if you're going to be sick, make sure you do it on your other side, Mary says without taking her eyes off the pitch. The snitch has been released, the players are in the air, and James is making a concerted effort not to look at anyone. Oi! Not on my book, you better not, Remus says, but his eyes linger on James too. Prongs? You two look a bit, I'm fine, he bites out, putting on a smile that he knows isn't exactly reassuring. Just headache. It's okay. Do you want to go back? Remus asks, a little too excited if James is being honest. I'm not missing match. Sirius lets out a laugh from his other side, shaking his head as he mutters to himself, obsessed. You're sure? Remus pushes. Because I really wouldn't mind. I'm sure, Remus. Very, very sure. Remus lets out a disappointed sigh, returning, reluctantly, to his reading and allowing James to continue to panic in peace. It's okay. This is okay. It's Quidditch. James loves Quidditch. He watches the keepers closest, since they're who he needs to know best, distracting himself from whatever is going on with him by breaking down their saves and misses, picking apart the gaps in their training. Focus on the game, he tells himself. Just focus on the game. Slowly, his breathing evens out, his grip on the railing relaxing. Fucking foul! Mary shouts as the Slytherin beater nearly knocks the Hufflepuff player he's chasing off of her broom with his club. She'll get back up, James says confidently, watching as the girl, who is currently hanging onto her broom with one hand, starts to swing, gaining momentum and then beautifully throwing her leg back over the handle. It's still a fucking foul, Mary mutters. You reckon Slughorn's paying Hooch off? Sirius asks, Hufflepuff scoring another goal despite the dirty play. What's that, 30-10? James asks, not taking his eyes off the game. And no, Bastard's too cheap for bribery. Sirius snorts. Touché. Maybe she does it for the Slug Club invite, Mary smirks. Sirius and James make nearly identical noises of disgust. Not fans? She asks innocently. I can't think of anything worse than a dinner party with that toad and a bunch of swats, Sirius says, shivering at the very thought. Well, fuck you very much, comes Remus's dry tone. Oh, come on, Mooney. You know I didn't mean you. Sirius leans around James so he can shoot Remus a smile. Besides, you only went that once. Barely counts. Wasn't worth the heckling I got, Remus says flatly. Mary laughs. Geez, you lot really are arseholes, aren't you? Oi, James and Sirius say at the same time, and Remus says yes. Though, Remus goes on, it was a bloody insufferable dinner party. Aha! Sirius exclaims happily. See? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And there's Slytherin with their second goal of the game, comes the announcer's magnified voice. Shit. James whips his head back to the game. I missed it. You too. He gestures between Remus and Sirius. No more bickering until the game is over. We're not... Shh! James waves his hand in Sirius's face, not daring to take his eyes off the game again. The Hufflepuff keeper is new, and James really wants to figure out a strategy before they play against each other. And that's when something small and green catches his attention. He's been doing a good job of not looking at the Seekers. Not particularly hard, considering they're usually on the fringes of the game anyway. But this, Regulus has done a straight dive for the ground, moving almost impossibly fast. For the third time this game, James feels something weird pull at his chest. Be careful, he thinks before he can help it. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Has he seen the snitch? Mary demands, her upper body halfway over the railing. I don't see anything. James? He tears his eyes away from the speeding figure to look around him. No, he says slowly. No, I don't see it either. Morrow's going now, Sirius says, though James thinks he hears a new anxiety in his friend's voice as they watch his younger brother hurtle towards the earth. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Holy shit, Mary says all of a sudden. James is about to ask her what she's on about when Regulus abruptly pulls up. It's truly an incredible show of broom work. Morrow doesn't stand a chance, realizing too late what's happening and trying desperately to pull himself out of the dive. He doesn't manage it, not completely anyway, slowing down enough that he doesn't crash, but not enough that he can avoid the ground completely, rolling off his broom as he hits the grass. Merlin, booms the commentator's voice through the stadium. We just witnessed one of the best Wronski feints I've ever seen. James grins, heart beating out of control as adrenaline buzzes under his skin. He watches Regulus flying in smooth circles above the game, the Slytherins going absolutely mental. Magic, James breathes, happy that Sirius is distracted by an excited Mary. And there's Hufflepuff with another goal, bringing the score to 40-20. The announcer calls out. Another goal James missed, distracted again. Now that he's found Regulus, he can't seem to look anywhere else, watching helplessly as Regulus coolly maneuvers through the game, tracking Morrow, waiting. Seekers require absolute control, self-restraint, the ability to sit back and observe. Regulus was practically born for this. Hufflepuff gets another 2 goals. Sirius elbows him. Told you, he says smugly. No, you said Morrow would get the snitch, which he hasn't. Sirius rolls his eyes. I said Hufflepuff would win, because Morrow was going to catch the snitch. Geez, you're as anal as Marlene with her bets. James snorts. I'll take that as a compliment. The Hufflepuffs get another goal. The crowd is going wild, students holding up their wands and shooting off alternating yellow and black sparks. Damn, Mary says, sounding impressed. They're really kicking ass this game. James hums non-committally, eyes bouncing around the field from player to player. What are they doing? All 3 of them look at Remus, who shades his eyes with his hands and stares up at the sky. After a moment, he seems to notice the rest of them staring at him. Yes? Moony, Sirius says slowly, sounding slightly awestruck. Are you watching the match? Remus rolls his eyes. I looked up for a second but then I saw, well, that. He jabs his finger at the sky and they follow it to Regulus, currently floating next to the Hufflepuff Seeker. Talking? Are they having a date in the middle of a Quidditch match? Mary demands, half amused and half indignant. And then James stops, because he sees it. The tiny fleck of gold just by Morrow's ear. Regulus is apparently laying on the charm because Morrow is suddenly laughing, his entire attention on Regulus and completely oblivious to the snitch currently behind his head. James blinks, rubs his eyes, blinks again. But no, it's really happening. Regulus Black is going to flirt his way into winning this Quidditch match. The Hufflepuffs are in possession again, the announcer calls out, as oblivious as everyone else. Johnson speeding down the pitch. Ooh, nice bludger dodge, mate. The Badgers really are on fire today. Avery trying to make a save and, oh my god, he's got it! Black has caught the snitch! Where the hell did that come from? A horn blares out, signaling the end of the match. Morrow's looking dazed and confused as Regulus glides down to the pitch, still holding the snitch in his hand, his team tackling him almost as soon as his feet touch the ground. All Slytherins in the stands are on their feet, stamping and shouting and throwing green scarves around. How did that just happen? Sirius asks, dumbfounded. God, I feel bad for Morrow, Mary adds. No one's gonna let him forget this. James means to respond, but he's working too hard on controlling his face, on not smiling as broadly and madly as he currently wants to, watching as Regulus is hoisted up onto his teammate's shoulders. Even now, Regulus doesn't smile with his whole mouth, his happiness hiding in the corners, the golden stitch sparkling in his hands as he holds it up. It makes James breathless. James doesn't expect him to come, not after the first win of the season, but he goes up to the astronomy tower anyway, brings a book and the map. His whole body feels like it's still buzzing from the match, and he can't help running over the plays in his mind again and again. He gives up on homework eventually and starts scribbling down strategies to run by Frank at practice tomorrow. There's a cool breeze drifting in off the grounds. It's halfway through October now, and the weather is always crisp and sharp. Goosebumps pepper James's skin, but he doesn't mind it. His head snaps up when he hears the door open, blinking as Regulus stumbles in, still in his Quidditch kit. Oh. James blinks. Regulus's hair is mused in a way it never is, his pale cheeks pink and eyes wide and glassy. Well, look who it is. James can't help but smile, placing his parchment and quill down beside him and turning to face Regulus head on. Here I am. His words come out overly articulated, like he's thinking hard about each one. Figured you'd be busy celebrating that win, James goes on when Regulus continues to stand there. But you came anyway? James shrugs, not sure he knows what to say to that, not sure he could explain it to himself even. You gonna sit down or... Right, Regulus nods to himself. Right, yeah. He moves the same way he spoke, with too much thought, one foot placed cautiously in front of the other, every step of the way until he's collapsing next to James on the ledge. He smells like Quidditch and fire whiskey. Good party? James asks, watching Regulus pull his legs up, crossing them on the ledge. It makes him look painfully sweet, especially when he runs a hand through his messy dark curls. Party? Oh, yeah, you know. James arches his brow. You really are sloshed, aren't you? Regulus tries and fails not to smile. I think I may have had an entire bottle of fire whiskey, he admits, a little shyly. Also, someone made jelly shots. And that's just too much. James throws his head back and laughs. Oh my god, I can't imagine you doing jelly shots. I'm not sure if I should be insulted by that or not, Regulus says, scrunching his face up. He's so much more impressive when he's drunk. James likes it. They're just not very dignified, are they? Tell me, did you raise your pinky finger when you did them? Oh, fuck off. Were they served on a silver platter? At that, Regulus's eyes go wide before quickly looking away. No, James practically gasps. No, they weren't. Merlin, you absolute wankers. Hey, I had nothing to do with the placement of refreshments, Regulus says indignantly. Oh no, you don't get it called jelly shots refreshments. I don't see why not. That's what they are, after all, Regulus retorts, putting a level of haughtiness behind his words that has James barely able to contain himself. There's nothing refreshing about jelly shots. Maybe you've just never had very good ones. James throws his hands up in the air. I can't believe you, he says through a smile. How you're managing to be a snob about this? You pretentious little prit. Enough, Regulus giggles. Actually giggles, as he ungracefully reaches forward to cover James's mouth. So much talking. The move causes Regulus to fall forward, the hand not currently covering James's mouth being used to hold him up in a crawl position. James feels his breath hitch, Regulus's eyes big and bright and so close. They freeze for a moment, not speaking, not moving. Regulus is drunk, but James has no idea what his excuse is. Eventually, Regulus drops his hand away from James's face, but he doesn't move back. You were brilliant today, James breathes. He doesn't know why. He just suddenly feels the need to tell him, needs him to know. Yeah? Regulus asks softly. That feint? It was beautiful, Reg. I mean it. God, watching you, how did I never notice before? How did I never notice what a fucking star you are? Regulus snorts. Literally. Yeah, James says without sarcasm. Yeah, but you are, though. Something shifts in Regulus's expression that James doesn't understand. They're still so close he can practically feel his breath. Guess you weren't looking? Regulus says evenly. It takes a moment for James to realize what he's saying. Maybe, he finally answers. But I'm looking now. In retrospect, he should have seen it coming. He didn't, but he should have. The first thought he has, when Regulus pushes forward, pressing their mouths together, half crawling into James's lap, is that he's so warm. His mouth, his hands. For a boy who walks around like he's made of stone, Regulus touches like the sun. And after that, his brain sort of short-circuits. He can't think. He can't move. He knows he should have seen this coming, but he didn't. He didn't. And for some reason, that keeps him frozen. Everything overpowered by it. I didn't know. I didn't know this was what we were doing. I didn't know this was who I was. How could I not know? How could I not know? And then the heat is gone. James is shaking and dazed and staring up at Regulus, who has jumped so far back he's on his feet, face broken open in horror as he stares down at James. I'm sorry. It's a word wrapped in all sorts of pain. Fuck, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. He's backing up towards the door, the pink flush gone from his cheeks. I swear I didn't. He chokes and his voice hitches, and James wants to make it better, wants to fix it, wants Regulus to never look like that ever again. But he can't. He can't. How could he not know? He flinches when the door slams, and now that he's on his own, he realizes that he isn't breathing right, too fast and too short. He's seen Mooney like this before, like his body's forgotten how to breathe. James squeezes his eyes shut, trying to get himself under control. Breathe, he commands himself. Breathe, you idiot. In and out, in and out. Fuck. Something aches in his chest and he doesn't know what it's from, but it hurts. Breathe. In and out, in and out. It's okay. This is okay. This can be okay. It's just a kiss. Except it isn't. It's Sirius's brother. It's Regulus Black. It's a boy. Breathe. In and out. In and out. A boy who touches like the sun. In and out. In and in. Chapter end notes. Yikes, that was intense. Have faith in James, though. He'll get there. Thanks, as always, for the comments. You guys are so kind. I love reading them all. A note as a reader. This one was fun, actually. I know it's, like, a little rough, because it's, James has a panic attack, and Regulus finally kisses him, and it's the start of Jegulus. But, it's fun because there's a lot of dialogue, and I like doing the dialogue because I like trying to get the voices and, like, the tones right. Anyways, I'll stop yapping your ear off. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next episode.